Welcome, NFL football fans. It's that time again. Time for another edition of NFL Football Talk. I'm your host, Charles E. Smith Jr. This is an Inside Sports production, and here we are. We're all the way up to Week 9 of the 2016 NFL season, so we're going to go ahead and give you a little bit of a mid-season report card, see what teams are going where, and kind of try to sift things out as the teams get ready for the stretch run here. So, as everyone knows, I do not work alone here. I do enlist the help of the very, very best. So I've got one of the best football analysts you'll find anywhere. He is a very proud Rutgers alum, and right now he is somewhere in an undisclosed location in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Many of you already follow him on Twitter at Chris L Sports, and if not, you probably should be. Here he is, none other than Chris Lardieri. Chris, what's happening out there, man?
Charles, again, thanks for the great introduction. Great to be back. We are about at the halfway point of the NFL season, and it went by in the blink of an eye. I don't know where it went, but I do know that Cam has an audience with Roger Goodell, and Richard Sherman doesn't think the league's fun anymore.
Yeah, there you go, and Cam doesn't feel safe, and you got to think, though, with the Panthers coming here to Southern California, going to play the Rams this weekend, I'd be willing to bet that he gets 2 roughing the passer calls this weekend. I think that's kind of guaranteed.
Yeah, I think especially now that he's brought this to light,
right.
Filmed probably a public service announcement, and given the Rams' defense isn't too kind to quarterbacks, if we could wager on this, I think that's it's a pretty safe bet, as safe as betting can be.
Yeah. There you go. So, we started with the Atlanta Falcons kind of getting back to business there and taking care of business against the Bucs. Some great catches there. Julio Jones and Mr. Evans also put on a great show. We had one-handed catches and tippy-toe catches and everything else. But Atlanta Falcons, and that's one of those things, we can start in the NFC. Here we are. All the teams have played roughly 7 or 8 games. It depends. But Chris, this points to something you talked about last week, the imbalance when it comes to the bye week. And I don't know if you heard Al Michaels during the broadcast, but he talked about Atlanta. This week they're playing on Thursday. Now they won't have another game again for 10 days when they play on Sunday, and then they have a bye week after that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with Al. As I mentioned last week, I don't know who's making the schedule nowadays. I do know it's a difficult task, and there's a lot of logistics behind it. But really, I mean, in the good old days of the NFL, not to sound like a get-off-my-lawn old man, maybe 2 weeks in a row, and then they'd be back on the road, and you wouldn't see the bye week so concentrated. This is the second week in a row. We've got 6 teams off, and even last week, as a result of the byes, we only had 2 games in the 4 o'clock East / 1 o'clock Pacific window. So, yeah, I mean, when you talk about declining NFL ratings, these are sorts of things that definitely don't help.
Yeah,
not to mention the London games and the fact that every game seems to want to end in a tie in the last few weeks.
Hey, a 27-27 tie with the Bengals and Redskins in London, what could be finer?
Especially at 6:30 in the morning.
There you go. So let's look at the NFC, and we'll start there because it's the AFC to me is pretty clear. It's barring injuries, I really don't see how anyone but the Steelers or the Patriots make it to the Super Bowl. But let's start NFC. All kinds of intrigue. Will it be Atlanta? New Orleans even getting back in. They're now 3-4 after they took care of business against Seattle last week. Atlanta, can they keep it up? But all those teams seem to have their weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Who do you like NFC-wise? Do you see anyone surging or any teams with kind of a specious value? Talk to me here.
Wide open, and with the Cardinals losing to Carolina, I mean, those are 2 teams that should be there, but I still will believe it when I see it.
Right.
Honestly, with the way the Falcons are playing right now, I think you've got to watch out for them, much like a few years ago when they made it to the NFC Championship game. But as you and I always know, the Matty Ice we see in the fall is a different one in January, so proceed with caution. I'm really not that impressed with the Seahawks, even if they win that division and get a home game. I mean, Russell Wilson clearly is playing hurt admirably, but with that offensive line, I don't know how much longer he's even going to last. So really, I thought the Vikings had it out with the way Bradford played, and now with upheaval and North Turner abruptly resigning, the fact that they've had 2 really bad losses here in the last 2 weeks, I have no idea. It's completely wide open, and if the you look at the NFC East, ironically,
Right.
it could be the best division in football, and at least on the NFC side. And I hate to say it, but if Dak keeps playing the way he does, and Romo really doesn't come back, that could be a team that can make a run. Now, that said, you and I both know that Jerry Jones will make sure Romo's trotted out there once he's healthy, and then I think the wheels might come off that machine. So I don't know. It's wide open. We're halfway there, but yet again, let's see if things pan out. And hate to say it, injuries are going to play a factor. Now, my one thing I will go on the record: if the Cardinals could right the ship, which I don't know what the way Palmer's playing,
Right.
that's a team that should, on paper, make a run, with David Johnson being a monster and a good D, but believe that when I see it.
Well, the other thing is with Dallas is that when we look at that, the whole Dak Prescott thing, I think it's really about Ezekiel Elliott, though, setting up the passing game for them with his incredible running. And Dallas may be in a really enviable position there if they wind up starting Dak Prescott, and imagine having Tony Romo as a backup if Prescott falters, maybe when times get tough. But yeah, and like you said, I hate to say it too, but Dallas, I really don't see a lot of weaknesses on their team, and Prescott keeps getting it done in so many different situations and pulling out the great wins like he did against the Eagles and just showing poise that's way beyond his years.
Yeah, definitely. This is a guy who probably would have been a first-round pick had he not had to run in with the law, and you're seeing why. And it's funny, at the time the Cowboys were really dejected they didn't get Paxton Lynch. I mean, man, did they step in it this year. And, we let's not forget the game in the trenches. Cowboys are the best offensive line in football, like they did back in their 90s heyday.
Right.
So that right there definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, there we go. And, let's go ahead and put a capper on the whole Minnesota thing. And remember, Minnesota was cruising along at 5-0, and then all of a sudden they lose, 21-10 to Philadelphia, 20-10 to Chicago. And then there's, Zimmer had called out the line after the Philadelphia loss and said they were soft. Then they lay an egg against Chicago. Then Norv Turner resigns. And all of a sudden, we were talking in Super Bowl. We weren't here, but, out there in the four-letter network and things, they were talking about the Minnesota Vikings possibly going to the Super Bowl. Now the defense doesn't want to stay on the field for more than 40 minutes a game anymore, and it's just all kinds of turmoil.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really, the Norv Turner thing's a head-scratcher. I don't know if it's something personal or if there was a coup. Apparently, the least stable job in the NFL nowadays is offensive coordinator, because when your team goes south, that's the first person to go. Started with the Bills and so forth. But, I really don't know what to make of it. Now, look, they miss Adrian Peterson. McKinnon's hurt. Asiata's not a number one. And Sam Bradford's coming back down to earth. Got to hand it to my father-in-law. We call him Gonzo. He's coached Pop Warner for many years. We were watching a Vikings game, and he looked at him, and he had a great observation. He's like, that guy does not look like a quarterback. He looks like a kicker. And I explained to him how scared he is. With apologies to our family we have in Minnesota, I've got to agree with him. Bradford, once he starts getting hit, once he starts getting rattled, he's reverting to that mean, and I think you're having a function of that there. And his receivers haven't really stepped up, and it's become a perfect storm. But, it's not like Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are really challenging him. And although Cutler beat him, I don't think the Bears are going to pose a problem. So really, it should be an interesting match between them and the Lions this week. Could be for the driver's seat in the North.
Yeah, that's true. So some real good games going. And then AFC, like I mentioned, I think it's going to be the Steelers or the Patriots. Any reason to think, am I leaving anyone out of there? Maybe the Oakland Raiders as a dark horse, possibly. What's Denver going to do? It looks like Simeon, maybe he's showing some signs of coming apart at the seams a little bit here, even though they got the win over San Diego.
Yeah, I do think whoever emerges from the West is legit, and with the Raiders, another win in the Eastern Time Zone. Although they did it while trying to do their best old Oakland Raiders impression, setting the record for most accepted penalties in an NFL game. But look, you've got to be impressed with the emergence of Derek Carr. At the time, I thought he'd be a good quarterback. He's really emerged this year. Amari Cooper has been an excellent receiver. He's got Crabtree, but I mean, they're finding ways to win, and their defense hasn't even completely gelled yet. Khalil Mack's been a little bit of a disappointment this year. they get that side of the ball straightened out, I think they could be dangerous. So you're looking at preview of somewhat of a playoff game this Sunday in Oakland with them and the Broncos for command of the AFC West here in November. But I think keep an eye on one of those two teams, especially if they both teams seem to be able to win on the road so far this year.
Yeah, there we go. And do I dare tell or ask you to make sense of the AFC South, or is that just mean? Osweiler and the Texans. And then what about Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans? They look good at times, and then at times they don't. But it seems like Mariota kind of under the radar because we've got the whole Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz and Jameis Winston. They're kind of at the forefront. And Mariota there in Tennessee, he's kind of flying under the radar, but I think he's coming along quite nicely as a quarterback when it comes down to it.
Yeah, he definitely is, and he doesn't have the depth of weapons that a lot of those other quarterbacks you mentioned do, but what he's got is a solid running game and a young offensive line that's coming together, which definitely helps. And I've been thinking about it. I mean, that's the team to watch out for, in my opinion. If they can get on any sort of a streak,
right?
And we could have the case like we did with the Panthers a few years ago. Is 7-9 going to win that division? 8-8 very, very well may. But I think that they're a very well balanced team. While I'm not thrilled with the coaching, I mean, is there anyone else in that division who's going to bring back memories of Vince Lombardi or even Bill Belichick? No, but this is a team I think out of all of them is probably the most well-rounded, relatively speaking, in that division.
Yeah, there we go. So we will just kind of wait and see. And so before we get into the Pics segment here, and we pick 3 of the more intriguing games of the week, and then we also give our Gambler's Delight special, which is any of you happen to be in Vegas and you got $10 burning a hole in your pocket at the sports book. We'll kind of give you some advice on that, and we've actually done quite well for the season. Before we get into that, though, Mr. Lardieri, you got some words for the viewers out there.
About the San Diego Chargers. They've got a measure on the ballot for a downtown stadium. Doesn't look like it's going to pass, and once that happens Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, let's start the rumors that the Chargers are moving to L.A. again. They've got the option to go share the new stadium in Inglewood with Stan Kroenke and his run. Work something else out or build on the site of the current Qualcomm, but something to keep your eye on off the field. And for those of you in San Diego, as they say, vote early, vote often. Should be an interesting story to follow here next week.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it now. First game we're going to pick the New York Jets, who have had to actually, fall in love with Ryan Fitzpatrick, their quarterback, again after they replaced him. But they're going to be in Miami to take on the division rival Miami Dolphins. Their running back, Jay Ajayi, is going to be going for his 3rd straight 200-yard game against that New York Jets defense. Mr. Lardieri, how do you see this one? The Dolphins going to keep on rolling, or is this a kind of a stumble and bumble game for them? What do you think?
Normally I would pick the Jets given their defense and the fact that Fitzpatrick's coming off a nice week, but I'm not going to get fooled by that team this year. I think Fitzpatrick comes back down to earth. The fact that Ajayi has emerged has really taken a lot of pressure off of Tannehill, and I do think the Dolphins' D will frustrate Fitzpatrick. Really, on that side of the ball, they've been struggling, and when you play the Cleveland Browns, that can mask a lot of your issues with duct tape. But while I'm not thrilled with Tannehill's play, he's doing just enough. And I think it might be an ugly game. It might be a low-scoring game, but I'm going to go with your Dolphins.
Okay, there you go. And you know what? I'm going to agree with you. I think that they're finally on a roll now, and I think they're going to keep it going in front of that home crowd. And it's honestly, like I said, this year was kind of a now or never year for Tannehill. Now with the emergence of Ajayi at running back, if Tannehill can't run the offense now, with that kind of a weapon in the backfield, it will never happen. So this is the game, and when they get this game, get to 500, get back into the playoff hunt. So yeah, I like the Dolphins to take care of business here.
It's good to agree with you again, Charles. It's such a foreign concept, but it is nice.
Okay, and then the next game, big NFC East battle. Philadelphia Eagles going to take on the New York Giants. Giants get themselves a home game here. And, well, these games are hard to call. Philadelphia coming off the heartbreaking loss last week. And we'll see what the Giants can do here. But I think, Giants, this is a tough game to call. Really tough game to call. I'm going to go by the narrowest of margins. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Giants here in this game. The home field advantage, and I think that maybe Carson Wentz gets a little bit rattled here. Now the pressure is high. He's playing on the road, division rival. I think that's going to tilt it a little bit in the Giants' favor, but, it could go either way. Got to pick it, so I'm going Giants in this game. Chris, what do you think, man?
I'm going to agree with you, but I had the same apprehensions and frustrations trying to predict this game. For me, I'm really disgusted, frankly, with the Giants' offense. For Ben McAdoo being offensive coordinator and now coming in, you'd think it was an entirely new system. Just really disappointing. What I'm hoping is the bye week helped. Maybe they worked out their differences. And more importantly, the real story this year and why the Giants are still above water is a defense. Jerry Reese invested a lot of money on that side of the ball, and they're not getting the sacks a lot of people would have liked. They are getting pressure on both ends, and I think the improvement in the secondary has definitely helped. And Landon Collins, as we saw against the Rams, has stepped it up. DRC, Jenkins have been playing well, and I think they'll do just enough to frustrate Wentz. And honestly, looking at this game, the loser of this game might be headed into a little bit of hole to try and capture the NFC East. So something really get most of the game of sorts of the Giants' season to continue.
Okay, there we go. So we're going to go ahead and agree on that game and both take the Giants. And then the final game, another division rival matchup, AFC West, Denver Broncos in Oakland to take on the Raiders. And here we go here, Mr. Lardieri. You can go ahead and take this one. Defending or reigning Super Bowl champions in Oakland to take on the fast-rising Raiders. What do you think?
Another one tough to call, just looking at the odds. I think it's down to a pick 'em. For whatever reason, and my wife's got a friend, Sandra, and her cousin Richard. Shout out to them, diehard Raider fans that are very happy, and they've, as it was pointed out to me this week, the Raiders seem to like to play better when they're in Denver and not in Oakland. But you know what? I'm going to go with the momentum play here. I really like the way Carr's playing. As we'll discuss in our Gamblers Delight section, the Chargers really had their chances to tie that game or stay in that game with the Broncos, and they let it get away. And I don't think Carr will let that happen. Simeon's been doing just enough, but I think the Raiders' D rallies, and they've got a lot of momentum on their side, and finally coming back home thanks to this crazy schedule in the NFL that we don't know who it is. They eke out a win. One of the Sunday night games I'm really looking forward to heading down the stretch, and hopefully Al Michaels will make a good over-under reference or something during the game to entertain us. But I'll go with the silver and black. What the heck? I mean, it's been a while since we'll be able to pick a Raiders game, right?
Oh, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going to go ahead and agree with you because the Raiders, they've got the momentum that we've been talking about. Also, C.J. Anderson, he's done. The running back for the Broncos, he's done for a while at least. So he's not going to be there. And Trevor Siemian is starting to show that he's not actually, a great quarterback. He's not a Peyton Manning. He's not a John Elway. And, the defense is staying on the field a lot longer now. I think Oakland's going to take care of business up there in the black hole. That's going to be that's going to be a fun game to watch. That's going to be old school.
Yeah, great atmosphere. All we're missing is some fog or maybe a monsoon to roll in to really make it great.
Yeah, there we go. And, now we're down to our Gamblers Delight picks. We're going to go ahead and recap here. We're both taking Miami to take care of business at home against the Jets. We also take the Giants to take care of business at home against Philadelphia. And then home team again, Oakland Raiders over the Denver Broncos. Now, Gamblers Delight pick, in case you haven't been watching, what we do is if you're in Vegas where gambling is legal, you got $10, you have the sports book, it's burning a hole in your pocket, you want to place one football bet, we give you our best suggestions here. And we've done pretty well. Mr. Lardieri is 4-1 on the year. I am 3-1 on the year. Chris normally goes with taking underdogs. I'm an over-under guy. So, Chris, what have you got for us this week?
Well, when you got the ball first and goal from the 2 and you can't score it, that'll tick you off as a gambler. And my pick this week also involves the San Diego Chargers. But I've learned my lesson. By no means is this a vindictive pick. It's the fact that the Chargers, even after that game, are giving 5 points to the visiting Tennessee Titans. And, for all the reasons we gave, I just think the Titans are a team that they've got some momentum in this awful AFC South. I really don't like the fact that the Chargers have had a lot of injuries this year, let's face it. But what's really hurting them is their wide receiving core. I believe Williams might be banged up. They're down to the wonderful Dontrell Inman, no disrespect to him, now in a starting role. Gates is banged up yet again. Hunter Henry banged up. So it's almost like Rivers is running out of weapons. And frankly, I think the Titans can just run the ball down the Chargers' throat. Mariota makes the throws when he needs to. And I'll go back, I like getting points. It's just the way I like to roll. But I do think if they do lose, it'll be a close game, 4 points or less. Why not take the Titans in the 5, and maybe they'll take command of this god-awful AFC South. On a side note, Paul, I've got a bonus for you. I'm going to throw a curveball. Throwing a curveball. I've been looking at some odds. I don't know if Vegas is taking lines on this. Apparently there are online books that do. The presidential election, Charles, the course of our great nation is at stake. Barack Obama cannot run anymore. We're getting a new president, whether we like it or not. Looking at the lines, even after these email scandals, they've adjusted. Trump's become a little bit less of an underdog. I say Hillary Clinton still the favorite, minus 275, meaning for approximately every $2.75 you bet, you win $1, which means Trump's about a 3-to-1 payout if he wins. I will take Hillary Clinton, despite Anthony Weiner's cell phone and in the emails that suddenly showed up. There's this thing I learned about in the great New Jersey public school system called the Electoral College. I think the map, even with that, is pretty favorable for Hillary to win. If you want to give an over-under on the electoral votes, I'll defer to you. But take Hillary Clinton minus 275 for entertainment purposes only.
All right. I'll go ahead and take that under advisement. And I think about that. My birthday is next week on November 9th, and I'm going to get steamrolled by the election. And when we do another show, we will actually have a new president. Not sworn in yet, but all the votes will be tallied, and one side or the other will be constantly bickering on social media that the world is ending instead of them actually being proactive in their own lives and doing something for themselves. But anyways, let me not get on a tangent here. Gambler's Delight pick. The Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens are playing this weekend. Ben Roethlisberger may or may not play. I think he may be dressed as a backup. But they have played some historically ugly football at times. And I think with this point in the season, with what's at stake, things are going to be tight. There's not going to be a whole lot of the vertical passing game. The over-under is 43.5. Play the under on Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Just play the under, and you can thank us both next week.
Like that pick, what do they call that? The backyard brawl, or I don't know what, but those games always seem to be low scoring, and Justin Tucker seems to have a say in what happens in that game at some point.
Okay, everybody, so remember that with those Gamblers Delight picks, we'll go over that again, and that is Mr. Lardieri says to go ahead and take Tennessee plus 5 against the San Diego Chargers, or even if it's 4, you'd say to go ahead and take them?
Yeah, I've seen it fluctuate. We want to be fair, let's split the difference. I've seen a number of 4.5. So what the heck? We'll take that. I'll be a good sport. Okay, 4.5. Take Tennessee, and I'm saying to play the under with Pittsburgh and Baltimore. It's at 43.5. Honestly, with this game, even if it's 40, I would take the under. It's probably going to be something like 16-13. I'm looking at with that game. So remember, everybody, the show is NFL Football Talk. This is an Inside Sports production. You can follow me on Twitter at The Inside Sports. Follow Mr. Lardieri on Twitter at Chris L. Sports. So everybody, enjoy the games of Week 9, and we will see you next week when we'll be celebrating a brand new president, a new era. Either way, it's going to be a new era. So everybody, enjoy the games, which are a distraction from everything, and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you for watching.